Welcome back to the lab. We are always excited when Fujikura drop new product. It's probably going to change the industry again. This time we have got brand new Ventus product.
We do.
Spencer, give it to us.
Okay, let me give you a history lesson first to really explain how we got to where we are right now. Okay, so the year is about 2018. So at the tail end of that calendar year, we introduced Ventus Blue to global tours. And then in 2019, that came to retail. And then later that year, we added a red and a black profile to sort of round out the whole family. What that basically does is it bookends sort of the central piece, which is the blue. And now you have a higher launching model and a lower launching model, right? So this was the first product that incorporated what we called VELOCORE technology. And essentially what that is, it's a combination of materials that run the entire length of the shaft. One of the highlighted materials we talk a lot about is pitched 70-ton material. So when we talk about materials, we really kind of go all in with tonnage. Now it's a very technical thing, so players are like, that's great, but what does that do for me? I'll get there. But essentially, when we make that full length, what we do is we create this incredible stability platform for the shaft to work around. So that includes changing bend profiles, tip stiffness, handle stiffness, whatever we need to do. And it doesn't matter if you're playing a red, a blue, or a black, you have this same stability platform that runs all the way through. So what we saw in initial testing with this is we saw increased ball speeds. We saw better ball speeds on center hit and off center hits. And we see a lot tighter dispersion rates, right? So when we see those mishits, they don't travel too far offline comparatively to other products, right? So we roll this out, and the reception obviously has been very, very good. You know, I would say right now about 1 in 3 parts on the PGA Tour are a Ventus part, so that's pretty high praise from that group of individuals.
I mean, touching on that, in our industry, very seldom do you see a product dominate, right. Just absolutely dominate, right. And it wasn't just blue. It was red, mm-hmm. It was blue, it was black. Everyone was playing Ventus, and if you weren't playing Ventus, it was like, what were you doing? This was an incredible storming of the golf industry.
Yes.
And I'm saying that because that builds quite a platform.
Yes, and I would tell you that in hindsight, we would love to say we planned this all along. We didn't. But what we did know is we had a really exceptional product, and we knew it would perform really, really well. And the adoption of that has been great, because really for us at Fujikura, a core mission statement is we want all golfers of all skill levels to play better golf through superior products. We're keenly aware that we're just a component of the golf shaft. Our piece doesn't work without a grip and a head on the end of it. So what we can do that's responsible is we can make the most consistent part that we can. And that's where we kind of push the envelopes with things like materials and technologies, and we really are trying to build the most consistent high performance part that we can. Now 2018 was quite some time ago, and another core mission statement is Fujikura is innovation, and we're always trying to improve and get better and get better and get better. So we transitioned sort of from the original Ventus lineup into Ventus TR, right? That was sort of along the same profiles, and we kept the same VELOCORE technology, but we integrated a new material in the handle section. We created a stiffer part, a lower launching, lower spinning part, and those 6 profiles kind of lived harmoniously together. And then our next thing was, well, we know how VELOCORE performs, and we know how well it performs for all players. So how can we move that throughout the bag? And then we focused our attention into irons. And so we had Axiom irons come out last year, same technology, VELOCORE technology. And so we're just trying to really enhance performance throughout the bag. So now you have original Ventus, you have Axiom irons, you have Ventus TR, and it was kind of time to refresh the original. Now you're right, it sets a very difficult stage. And it's a hilarious conversation when you go to your engineering team and say, we need something that launches about the same, spins about the same, it's faster, it's tighter, and it feels better. Ready, go.
Yep.
And it's a labor of love to do that. And in order to do that, we have to readdress kind of VELOCORE as a whole. What are the materials that we're using? How can we push that envelope a little bit more? And that's why when we start to move into these new profiles of Ventus, we talk about VELOCORE Plus. And what we've essentially done is we've increased the highest performance tonnage of the original material layouts, and then we've incorporated a 3rd material into the bias core. And what we saw in testing was ball speeds went up, consistency went up, feel went up, and launch and spin are about the same. So it's a difficult task. It would be easier if we created a new profile. Trust me, I can tell you it would be much easier. So that was almost an easier thing with TR, is that it could be different. This is taking the place of a very strong industry standard. So we got to be very delicate with how we address that. And the reason we want them to be the same sort of bend profiles and launch and spin characteristics is we want fitters to be able to swap and give players improvement in the areas where they need it without sacrificing anything. So the areas they need it is, ball speed and consistency, and we don't want to see it spin too much or launch too low, and that's kind of where we're at today. So we learn a lot in 6 years about materials, with our Enzo testing system. I mean, we take a lot of care and attention into how we build golf shafts. So as great as these are, and they will always be wonderful, 6 years of R&D and development can make them, that much better.
I just want to say this to you guys out there. This is not a marketing pitch. S3 technology is about data-driven results. And hopefully we make you guys sweat a little when you come in here. We don't want to just hear the marketing story. We don't want the fluff.
Yeah.
We want to be telling the people out here that maybe own a Ventus product, why should they be springing for this new one? What are we giving them? And what are they coming to cool clubs to experience? So, I mean, what I've learned out of that is that it's not just a Ventus story. This is a Velocore story. This is watching Velocore grow as a product and understanding of how this material is changing the game. And, hang around, because we're going to evidence this. We're not just going to say, hey, thanks, Spencer, let's go get them in. We're going to put them through the S3 machine, and we're going to actually run some numbers. But what you're telling me is that we actually shouldn't see much different in the numbers, right? You've got your red, blue, and black profiles, which have held. You have gone to your engineering team and told them, make Velocore better.
Yes.
And keep the flight characteristics, keep the feel the same.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a hard job.
It is.
And even more so is, what should we be expecting to see? I mean, let's just try and boil that down into, a couple of sentences. If I had a blue and a blue, let's call blue the most dominant. I don't know what the skew was like.
Yeah.
What am I going to be seeing if I've had that Ventus blue in my bag, and I've loved it, obviously, because it was just a killer golf shaft.
Yeah.
Why are we going to Blue Plus?
Well, as seriously as you take data, we do as well. And it's much like your S3 machine. We have our Enzo analytics system, and we're looking at data all the time. But we also have a full-time product tester, and we test these things to death, which is a little bit on the rare side for a shaft company to have a full-time product tester. But we take it very seriously because we can look at data, and we can quantify data, and we can say this is the same as this is better than this, et cetera. What we cannot get from that is player feedback and feel. So when you say, well, what does this offer? I can tell you what we saw overwhelmingly from testing, and that's we see ball speeds go up, and we see launch and spin stay similar to the original per player. So a player's going to launch and spin it how they launch and spin it. We look at that individually as that player with that shaft. We test it against the old and against the new. And lastly, we see a huge uptick in feel. The biggest feedback we got was that the shaft feels tighter. It doesn't feel stiffer. It feels tighter. It feels more complete. I feel like I have more control of it. And when we run testing, especially with elite players, we always say you get about 4 golf shots, right? Because you're going to give them a shaft and they're going to hit it once just to get a sense of it. They're going to hit it a second time to confirm it. And the third time they're going to go after it a little bit. And if that shaft starts to waver or get wild on that third shot, you'll see ball speed start to decrease because the player starts to steer and manipulate the golf club. If it doesn't, you see ball speeds go up and up and up, and the faster they move and the more consistent the pattern, that's when you kind of have a winner. So blindly, I can tell you that's what we saw across a myriad of testers and ball speeds and flexes, and I would expect the same things for your fitters to see as well.
Well, I guess that's kind of what we're going to go through as an experience during this segment, and whether we break this up into parts or not. But we've heard the story, which is essentially you guys going to your engineers and saying this is what we want. We're going to run the S3 numbers, which is you kind of running it through your analytics. But then we're going to get a little fitter feedback.
Yes.
And I think that's where we're going to really find the gold in this, is the fact that, if the S3 numbers show up the same, which I'm hoping they will, I'm sure you guys have figured that out, then all we can rely on is that it's doing a better job in the field. The empirical evidence is going to be there. It's pretty exciting to think that Ventus can get better. Yeah,
we feel the same. And we think we've done it. And to your point, you made an excellent statement when you said it's becoming less of a Ventus story and more of a Velocore story. And Ventus is the first product to have this, and we'll always have it in our Ventus aftermarket parts. But you start to see it move down into Axiom. You see what it does in irons, and you see what it does in hybrids. And we're exploring how far can we really take that. What other parts of the bag can we get this technology into, and how does it make sense? And we don't just say this is the recipe, put it in everything. We literally attack every product family, every generation differently, and that's where you see a change and an enhancement to the technology. Is what's the point in making the same thing, right? Now we know there's metrics we want to hit that are the same as the original, but we want it to be better. And to your point, is that changing bend profile? Maybe not. Is that changing stiffness? Maybe not. Is that changing the guts and the material inside? Probably so. And that's really where they give us a hard time about it, but the engineers kind of love that challenge, right? And when they see the data come through like we see, we get excited, but I promise you they're even more excited about it.
I grew up with the saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure that's what our fitters thought. I'm sure
Yeah.
that's what people that have got these golf shafts think. But we're here to prove these results
Right.
and to give people a reason to go out and at least try them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So before we put the thumb screws down on all of that kind of stuff and the technology, you and I have been together before and we touched on Ventus Blue. We're all excited to see this new Velocore Plus come out. This storyline today is that you've got 3 of the OGs,
Correct.
2018s in
Correct.
front of you,
Yep.
but we're now ramping up to the whole line is going to be around.
The full line, yeah. And what we're able to do with that line, it's kind of what I mentioned before, is it was the reason we launched the red and black profiles initially is, you know, we're a very fitting focused company and we're very confident that we can make great product, but not one product fits all. And so we need some different characteristics within the shafts to cater to different swing types, swing speeds, whatever that might be. And that's kind of where you see this red, blue, black. Now Ventus is very interesting when you look at the blue profile. It's relatively soft in the handle section. So that's where a lot of players comment that it's very easy to load. And you know, we talk about a lot, you know, transition in the golf swing. And players with a slower, more deliberate transition tend to prefer something a little bit softer in the handle section. Players that are a little more rapid, a little more aggressive on the way down like some extra stability in that section. So what Ventus Blue does really effectively is you have this very easy to load handle section and the stiffness just gradually increases from the mid all the way to a very, very stiff tip section. So traditionally when you see shafts with a softer handle section, they kind of have higher torque ratings and they have a lot of play at the bottom. We didn't really do that with that profile because we want this to be very consistent throughout the swing. Now we bookend that with a Ventus Black, which is very, very stiff throughout. Ultra stiff handle section, ultra stiff tip section, very stiff mid section, and it's for a player that likes to have minimal feeling of flex and movement in the shaft. And then we moved in the red, and the red's a little bit of a hybrid between the two. Now red has a very stable handle section, but that's because it's softer mid to tip and has a lot of action at the bottom. So we actually stiffen the handle section to give stability because the rest of the shaft's gonna move so much. So it's a little bit of a mad science to figure out where to put stiffness and back things off, but you know, we've really hit a home run with that combination, and it's done incredibly well. We're excited to see it keep going.
We speak about mad science. Lucky we've got Mark Timms. He is Mr. Mad Science,
he'll
right?
appreciate that.
But touching on what you said there, that's a great a storyline, and we've kind of touched on this in our prior conversations, which is, you know, in terms of color coding, people often go low, mid, and high.
Right.
And yes, yours can kind of fit into that, but in the schemes of, you know, high, there's nothing that's super high, launch, high spin, right?
Correct.
So what you've really done is create different field profiles for different player swing types, rather than, okay, this one's going up into the moon and this one's going underground. Right. It's really about how does that player react 100%. To the profile.
And it's important to compare them to each other, right? Because when we say red is a higher launching product, it is higher than the black and the blue, but we make high launching golf shafts that are very, very high torque, very soft profile, made to kick the ball up in the air. This is not that product. Now, comparatively, because of that softer mid and tip section, you're going to see some increase in, you know, workability at impact and a little increase in launch and spin. But it still kind of fits in that same parameter of being a very, you know, performance-driven, performance-focused shaft that's very stable throughout. So, you know, we make shafts that are high launch and high spin. Red's not really one of them. It's just compared to the other two, it is a higher launching part.
Yeah, I mean, we love it. This gives our fitters all the options, right? You know, that's what club fitting is about, is being able to really, really fine tune it. It's not one size fits all. It's something at Cool Clubs that is interesting, right? It's kind of why we're always going to be around. Yes, we're going to offer virtual fitting, and we'll give you advice based on the information you give us. And you can attest to this, and this is why we're going through the stage of this interview. Ultimately speaking, you have to get with a fitter.
Yes.
You have to get these products in hand and test them. You know, we're a Fuji authorized dealer. We build the products how you guys recommend them to be built. We make sure that they're going to perform for you in your fitting, and you're being guided through that experience. So you're not just testing random stuff, right?
Absolutely.
It's being guided through. These are high-end products. You deserve a service that's high-end to go along with these great products.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay.
All right.
This isn't over. We've got S3 data to run, and then we've got fitter empirical evidence. So hang around. Thank you so much, Spencer, for giving us the background, mate.
Very welcome.
Let's do it.
You got it.